Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's so good to be in your company at the start of a brand new day. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning, and we're talking about a very important subject, one that's very relevant to us as well. Parenting, which can be tricky at best. But how much trickier can it then become to navigate life as a single parent? Now, the Human Sciences Research Council, or HSRC, and the South African Race Relations Institute have found that 60% of South African children have absent fathers, and more than 40% of South African mothers are single parents. This is the reality that we live in.
Completely. And this morning, we have invited in clinical psychologist Fayrouz Gabi and registered psychological counsellor Shabila Safuddin, both single moms and sharing a very special perspective and obviously the intellectual background to be able to translate this for us. So we are so excited to have them on the couch. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And of course, this is a safe place and an open conversation. So we are tackling parenting on your own. If you are, please share your experience, any insights, pressure points. Maybe you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 063 408 8863. We really would love to hear your perspective.
Absolutely. Ladies, thank you very much once again for being here with us. And yes, we are tackling the single parenting journey from the single mom perspective, which is something that both of you have experienced. And if I could start with you first, Shabila, what has it been like for you?
It's been an interesting journey, and as I was looking at some of the discussion points, I was thinking about where I was about 7 years ago, because I feel like that really almost creates a sense of where you are at. I think that 7 years ago, I was in a very different place. My kids were much younger, so it was quite harrowing. And when I think about it, I often have flashbacks and, you know, I think about, like, how did I do that? Like, who was that person back then? And now they're older, they have less sort of physical dependency on me, so it means that I can sort of move around more freely, they can move around more freely. But I also just think that when I look back at that person about 7 years ago, I think about her and I wonder, like, how did she do that? And I realized that so much of my journey has been about developing self-compassion and really just, you know, almost like loving myself through the journey. Because, yeah, I came from a very harrowing experience, and now things seem to be just a little bit easier. Still challenging, but easier.
Are you proud?
Very proud, absolutely proud. Feel so grounded in myself. And I think that's what it's done. It's sort of almost like accelerated my self-development and the deepening of the connection and the relationship that I have with myself. So that's what I'm really proud of, because it means that I can show up and be more present with my goals as well.
I was going to say, because we can speak from experience that a single parent does show up. And there have been studies that hint that a single parent shows up a lot more than a dual couple, often because you are focused and you have to go through those challenges. It's like the ultimate boot camp in life. Absolutely. And as a parent who is not a single parent, I am in awe of how my mother did it and how you are doing it right now. In the context of the South African narrative, what are those fears? What are those pressures that face a South African mom? And I know there are single dads out there, but the vast majority in South Africa are woman-led households, single female parents. What are those pressures from a South African perspective?
It's tough. I mean, it's tough being a woman in South Africa and then being in charge of kids and needing to protect them. So oftentimes, I think one of the challenges that face us as single moms is how do we, without a male in the household, keep our kids safe? How do we go, you know, on trips or just take our kids out without feeling vulnerable in that way? So it's definitely something that I think makes you feel even more vulnerable as a woman in this country when you don't have a spouse, you know, who can actually provide some sort of protection or just deterrence to crime and that sort of thing.
Completely. I mean, there's parks that I won't go to alone if I've got to watch both kids.
Yeah.
You know, exactly. And the reality is you're a lot more vulnerable as a woman.
For sure.
Yeah. That's how it is.
And I mean, you talk about that vulnerability. Yesterday we were talking about some of the challenges that women face in terms of progress within corporate, within just work experience, and then that must be a real fear as well when you think about how am I going to provide for the future of these children when not even my future is certain. I can't even, or it feels like I don't have agency to take control of that. But I want to also tap into some of the positive tools that you might have discovered throughout your personal journeys that have helped you to manage some of these fears and some of these challenges. Could you shed some light on that?
I think for me personally, and what I also just encourage a lot of my clients and friends as well,
Yes.
is that I had to quickly learn to become quite protective of my energy and my time. And those two, for me, are the commodities that I'm most protective of. And in that way, I've been able to be more specific about who, what, and when I give my energy. My time is obviously very precious. We don't have an extensive amount of time as a single parent, as a single mother. And so it's just being very, very aware of that and very conscious of that and how I spend that. So that's been very positive for me. It means that I show up more boundaried, and I am quite boundaried. What's really helped, and sometimes I get a bit of slack from this from my kids as well as some of my friends, is that my kids have always had a bedtime. And I have a 13 and a 10-year-old, and sometimes they complain, but it's also how I've kind of I held on to my sanity.
Yeah, you ring fence that time.
You know what I mean? So that meant I had time in the evening to connect with my friends, or just read, or do whatever I wanted to do. So that's some of the positive stuff I've taken.
Which I think could also be a great learning point and a teaching for your children for their futures as well.
Very much so.
Hopefully.
Great way to start it off at such an early age. Well, we'll be looking forward to hearing from you about some of the tips that you have, and maybe you want to share them with a parent out there who might be going through a similar experience. 0634088863. Send us your WhatsApp voice notes. We'll tap into them in the next discussion.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, it is indeed. Welcome back to it as we continue our discussion with clinical psychologist Feiruz Gaby and registered psychological counsellor Shamila Safuddin. We're talking about the challenges often single moms face and how they can better navigate through this journey of parenting, single parenting as well. And of course, we've asked you to share your thoughts with us, how you are going about tackling parenting on your own. Share your experiences via our WhatsApp voice note line 0634088863. Ladies, as I said, we've got some insights that we're going to get from our viewers out there. So let's listen to that first voice note, and I believe it comes from Busi.
Good morning, family. My name is Busi Ngwenya, based in Rustenburg. I grew up with a single mom, and I would like to send a heavenly shout out to her. Her name was Patty Constant Ngwenya. Mom, things are not the same, but we are hanging in there, and you will always remain in our hearts. Thank you, family. Enjoy your day. Bye.
Ralebocha Oosbusi all the way in Rustenburg there. And I think that's something that I think if I could just relate to from a personal point of view, the worry as a single parent over whether your children, number one, are you doing enough for your children, whether one day they'll feel that you've done enough for them. Is that something that each of you might have maybe struggled with as a single parent?
I think definitely, and I think what compounds that is the guilt often around, you know, this is not the plan for you guys. I wanted you to grow up with both your mom and dad.
Right.
And so it can make us overcompensate and try and do more. But I think what I would tell viewers that the most important thing you can do for your kids is actually to look after their mom. Because, you know, overstretched, irritable mom is not doing our kids a very good service. And so while we focus on the children and think, oh, you know, I need to actually be looking after them and doing more for them, it's important to remember that whatever you plow into yourself will inevitably, you know, fall onto the kids.
And I think this also speaks to a little bit of what you spoke about earlier on, Shamila, about protecting your energy and your time, right? Because as a single mom, as a single parent, you want to be okay first, so that, what's that thing that they say on the airplane? First put on your mask before you put on anybody else's mask, right? And essentially this experience as a single parent is a massive change, and it shapes your life in a massive way. What would you say to a woman out there, a single parent out there who's feeling stuck in their story, like there is no way forward?
This is your evolution. This is your path. You know, for better or worse, we got to make do with what's present in our lives. And the argument against that is what makes it harder. The resistance to that is what makes it harder.
Right.
And so acceptance is a journey, and I know that. You know, you don't just get to a space where, oh, I've accepted. There's days where I still sit in these challenges, and I have to talk to myself and say, your life doesn't look like everybody else's. This family is not conventional. And you've got to give yourself the time and space to just be compassionate and kind and show up in the best way that you can. And your presence is what matters with your children, you know? So I feel like that's what we need to focus on. The expectation has to be adjusted. However you became a single parent, the expectation has to be adjusted, and you've got to almost like revisit that and revisit your intention around that and how you now want to create a family.
Yeah.
What does that look like now for my kids? And as I say, have discussions with your kids about it. Talk openly about the fact that it's different for us.
We're going to get to that because I really want to touch on that point in a second. We do have another voice note from Michelle. Let's hear it.
Good morning, Expresso family. This is Michelle from Eden Park. My proudest moment as a single parent is seeing my children turn out to be the kind of children that any parent would be proud of, despite all the trials and tribulations that we went through. I can just thank God for His amazing grace and mercy upon our lives. And I would like to give a big shout out to all the single parents that's out there. I know it hasn't been easy, but we can just thank God for always being there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That is absolutely lovely. I love that motivation that she ended off there with. What I wanted to touch on with what we said earlier on is how you speak to your children as a single parent, as a single mom, single dad. I think that there's a danger, a potential danger in how you relate the circumstances of the breakdown, let's not call it the failure, but the breakdown of your romantic relationship and how that translates into the messaging you give across to your children. What would you say is critical to consider when you are, especially when your children might have been very young at the time, and now they're coming of age and they're starting to understand life? How do you introduce certain conversations, important conversations, about the absent parent into their lives?
It's a tough one, and it obviously depends on the circumstances. Some dads are more present than others. But I think it's really important to always speak about their father with regard and respect. It's such a big part of a child's sense of themselves. And if that isn't done, it does affect the child. I think also what has to be focused on is that, it just didn't work out between your dad and I. And we thought about things and realized we'd be much better parents to you, or both, or you as the child, if we actually didn't live together. And so it's vital to speak with regard and respect and care about the other parent.
And then,
can I just add?
Please.
I mean, I think that absolutely, as Ferris is saying, I think it changes depending on the age.
Yeah.
So when my kids were 3, 4, 5, it was, mom and dad don't necessarily feel, they want to live together anymore. It's it's simple. Now that they're older, there's more comprehension. They have an understanding. They spend time with their dad.
Yeah.
So, the conversation now is a little bit deeper and maybe just a little bit more honest, because I also think it's really important to ground them in the reality, and be real about it with our children.
Yeah. Ladies, thank you so much for the time you've spent with us. I think just from the short conversations we've had, it's clear resilience, self-reliance, self-awareness, self-appreciation and love is at the cornerstone of navigating this very, very difficult time. And you are absolutely fantastic, fantastic individuals, and I'm sure fantastic moms to your kids as well. So thank you for sharing the time with us.
Thank you.
And hopefully this conversation has definitely resonated with you at home and that you're able to say it's okay and you do feel empowered to start thinking and doing things a little bit differently. And one of the best things that parents can do for their kids is get them involved in a sport they love. Get them out there, away from the TV. Outside is where it's at.